sprint cars. I got one sitting in the garage, and I hate to say it, I only use it about once or twice a year anymore. The Nitro racing takes up a lot of time. We do a lot of traveling with that. And, I'd like to race sprinters more, but it's just, right now it's not in the cards, maybe down the road. Maybe if we didn't run the fuel car so much. But, I drive that Nitro Hemi car, and then on the other side I drive rear engine car for Mark Foster every now and then. So between those two, couple kids, some ball games, and everything else in life, I'm pretty tapped.
So now, Dusty, how did it go with the Nitro Hemi last year?
We're pretty good. We went out, first race March meet, we qualified number 3. Had some success. The driver stepped on himself first round, but, that happens from time to time. Then went to Bowling Green, did all right there. Went to semis in Boise, and lost a real close one first round to Jim Murphy in Tulsa. So, hopefully coming up in 2018, we'll be able to win some of those closer races. We're going to freshen stuff up, try a couple different things with the fuel system, see if we can get that couple of hundred that we keep losing by. We didn't run the Hot Rod reunion. I got to help out Brendan Murray. It was pretty cool to hang out with him, see how he runs his program. But we're gearing up, and we'll be back for 2018 at the March meet.
Then, of course, the Hot Rod reunion, we lost Brett Henry, the fuel out there driver.
Yeah, that was a tragic deal. I was actually up on the line when that happened. Something you hate to see as a racer, and definitely condolences go out to the family. That was a pretty rough deal.
So he made it to the finish line, and the car suddenly started up, revved up again, or something. What was the deal with that?
It's hard to speculate on what happened there. I really can't say. I don't know. From what I understand, it was just kind of going through there, and the car relit and went back open again. I've personally had the throttle hang open going through life, but usually once you get it closed, it's closed. I'm not sure what happened there. It's a tragedy, and hopefully, it'll come out. If there was something mechanically that happened, so we can prevent it from happening again. But I know for the top fuel class this year, they changed rules. They are putting a remote shutdown device on them. So, hopefully that'll prevent another tragedy like that from happening again.
Yeah. So tell me, Dusty, how did you get started in drag racing?
I actually was quite a fan when I was in high school, and my dad took me to a couple nostalgia races, and there was a guy from our hometown that was, at that time really tearing it up. He ended up being the champion back then, and my dad was like, hey, I know that guy, I can hook you up. So, long story short, my dad introduced us, and I got to be, basically a garage sweeper for that team. And then they actually let me work on the cylinder head. So when I was in high school, I was a crew member on a Nostalgia Top Fuel car and got to travel to Indy and St. Louis and all over with them. And it was Pete Kaiser was driving, and his parents were running the deal, Pete and Marlene, and then Bill Simpson from Simpson Parachutes and Helmets and stuff. He was the car owner at the time, and it was a great experience. Got to travel around, got to see stuff, and I was really hooked on the Nitro. I always wanted to be a driver, and knowing that I couldn't afford, top fuel at that age, I went the dirt track racing around, got some seat time, got some experience, learned how to race, and then, I kind of always hung out with Kaiser and would go wherever team he was with. I'd go hang out where I could, and kind of hung around. And then when the opportunity presented itself a couple years ago, I got a ride with Bob Richardson and the Circuit Breaker team, and that kind of opened a couple doors for me, and I'm still hanging on.
So, what was the first car you drove in?
For drag race, I started out in Bob Richardson's Nostalgia Top Fuel car. It's the Circuit Breaker team. Currently, it's actually owned and wheeled by Pete Wittenberg out of Anaheim. Bob passed away at the end of the season when I was done driving it, and Petey he picked up the program, so he's running it now. It's still out there. You know, I never really drag raced until the March meet my rookie year. I jumped right into a front engine top fuel car, it was a challenge to say the least, but a lot of fun.
So what was it like getting behind the wheel the first time for the Nitro Hemi?
You know, that car is different. It's the controls in it are set up different than every car I'd ever driven. It's got a push brake, which is it took a little getting used to, I'll admit. So you got to push on the brake, and the parachutes are on the opposite side of what I was used to. So it was the first couple of runs was a little interesting, but yeah, I got it figured out, and now I kind of like the push brake. It's got its advantages. But it's a fun car to drive. It's a Neil and Parks car. It goes pretty straight. It's definitely, you know, the Harrises owned that car before Steve Harwood purchased it, and it was definitely the top of the class for a few years there. And it's a great car. I really like it. You know, maybe one day Steve will sell it to me. I wouldn't mind buying it for myself.
So now, who licensed you?
So I licensed in Bob Richardson's car. I committed to drive for him. I paid him a couple bucks to drive it because I was kind of an unproven guy. And we went out there just before the March meet and made 3 passes one day and 3 the next. It was different because, you know, you go into these things and I've seen a lot of drivers over the years that, I don't know, I've always kind of felt you got it or you don't. Luckily for me, I guess I got it. I'm still doing it, but they're not the easiest cars in the world to drive. But yeah, I made a few mistakes in my time, but once you get them figured out, they're not too bad. I like them a lot. But yeah, licensed there for most at Bakersfield, and went out like 2 weeks later and ran the March meet.
Now, Dusty, how many crew members do you have?
We kind of mixed up from race to race, but currently we've got probably, 5, 6. Usually in Bakersfield I get a couple buddies to come out, but Steve Harwood, the car owner, is always there. We got Jeff McKim and Jerry Wise, they come with them. Mark Luttrell does our blowers and so forth, he comes. My buddy Kevin Morrow, he's like my right-hand man. He's there with us at every race. My buddy Tim comes out to Bakersfield. So, yeah, we get a mixed group. Sometimes we'll have a couple extra guys roll out to the races that are out of the different regions and so forth. And, I mean, there's been a couple races where it's just been 3 of us, and there's been a few where we've had, 6, 7 people there. But it just varies.
Now, do you have any sponsors for the car?
Yeah, currently we got Lucas Oil helping us out with product and NGK Spark Plug. Takes a lot to run these things, so every little bit of sponsorship helps. But we really appreciate having those 2 on board. It definitely helps with some of the more expensive stuff.
No,
but we always have room for more.
Yeah. So, any sponsors out there listening? There you go.
Yep.
So now, your family back you up in your drag racing?
Yeah, it's a pretty cool deal, with the drag racing. It's a little different from the dirt. It's more of a family atmosphere. A lot of other racers are out there with the wives and kids and so forth. My kids don't always come to the races, but my wife's always there. She's my backup girl, and she puts on her boots and gets out in front of the car and backs me up, and sometimes she'll pull me into the beams. And it's a lot of fun being able to travel with her to the different states, see the different regions, and then get to go play with a fuel car.
So since you've been drag racing, have you had any accidents or near accidents at all?
I think drag racing, knock on wood, I'm pretty lucky because you never know with those things. But I've had the tires chunk apart in the big end, and that was made some cool pictures. I got oiled in pretty bad at the California Hot Rod reunion 2 years ago. The valley cover broke and then dumped a couple gallons of oil on my head. I mean, for the last 20 years, definitely inspiration to me. He's got a championship under his belt, and he's actually a pretty good crew chief now, and he's always been one of the better drivers in my opinion. So yeah, I look up to him a lot, and I've always tried to do as good as him, and just be out there. It's there's not a lot of rides out there, and he's found a way to stay out there all these years. So just try to do what he does.
So where do you guys purchase your nitromethane from?
We haven't bought any for a while because we had a little bit of a surplus. But I usually get it from Dale Poldy. Dale's a good guy. He seems to have the better prices around. And for us, they deliver it out there to Bakersfield. So when the team comes out from Colorado, we can load a drum or two in the trailer and take it back. So that's usually who I've been getting it through. I know there's a little bit of a shortage going on right now, so we'll see how it goes here moving forward. But he's always been my guy.
Now, who do you get your fire suit made from?
A fire suit? Well, so when I first got in these things, I didn't really know if I could drive them or not, so I didn't really want to invest a ton of money in a custom suit and all that stuff. So actually both suits I got off of eBay. I got one Simpson, it was Johnny Gray's, back when he drove for Worsham. I think he only wore it one race, but it's kind of I'll call it loud suit. It's yellow and orange and all these different colors, but I paid like $300 for it and got the job done for a couple seasons. And then last year I got one of Sean Langdon's old suits from Schumacher's eBay site for a couple $100 and started using that. One of these days I'll break down and buy one that's got my name on it, but with the front engine cars, you're just one bad lap away from having a good fire or good oil in that's gonna ruin it anyway. So I've never really worried about them. I mean, I figure if the pros wore them, safest you can get, so it works for me.
Yeah, whatever works.
Yeah.
So since you've been drag racing, what have been your milestones?
I think the biggest thing for me was running a 5 and licensing. I always thought that was pretty cool because I remember it was such a milestone for the class, and to be able to run a 5-second pass licensing, first time driving drag cars, really. I thought that was pretty cool. Qualified number 3 at the March meet, which is the biggest race of the year. That's also right up there. There's some heavy hitters in this class, and we don't have the largest budget or the nicest equipment, but to come out there and now qualify some of the bigger teams was pretty special. So that's I got to run the finals in Epping, New Hampshire. That was pretty cool too. Hopefully one of these days I'll win one, but we'll keep plugging away till it happens.
So what's the quickest run time you had with the dragster?
I ran a 573 at 256. That was at the March meet last year, and we made a couple changes this winter, so the car makes it over the Rockies and out here for the March meet, which it should. Hopefully we'll get that thing down in the 60s.
Now, Dusty, can you tell us a story about what goes into a preparation for a drag race weekend?
For me, it's a little different. There's a couple of us out there pretty spoiled that don't have to load the trailer and the fuel and all that. For me, it's more or less just washing all my stuff and making sure it's clean from the last race and going to the airport and getting on a plane. But having ran my own race cars in the past, it's a lot of work. I know Harwood up there in Denver, he's loading drums of fuel up. The car after every race it comes apart, all the parts checked, valve spring, seat. There's quite a bit that goes into servicing one of these cars. You got to cut all the clutch disc loaders, and then load it all back in the trailer once it's all freshened up. So it's a lot of work. For me, I'm pretty blessed. I just drive to the airport and rent a car, But my hat goes off to those guys that are out there doing it. It takes a lot. It's like you have a 40-hour work week, and then you got another 20 on the car between races. So it's a lot.
Yeah. So what are your favorite tracks to race on?
cool ones. I've been really digging Denver, actually. We get to run a match race up there usually in May. It's got a pretty cool deal. They bring all the kids out. They do a read-to-race program for the kids in school and so forth. Yeah, that track there is pretty neat. The only thing I don't like about it is the altitude. Harder to run quicker up there, but it's just kind of neat the way it's up in the side of the mountain and so forth. Bakersfield, that's the place. You know, that's where it all started, and that's where it's all happening. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's not March or October. It's extremely hot, but definitely a go fast track. So I really like going there. Boise's pretty cool too.
Now, have you ever run 8th Mile?
Nah, I look at the cones when I go by them, but everywhere we've ran's been a quarter. I ran Sacramento in a couple cars. That one's 1,000 feet, but never done 8th Mile. I know I'm usually getting there in about 3.8 seconds or so, like 2:08, 2:07 is probably my best.
Now, have you ever won any trophies or anything?
And dirt cars have won a few main events and late models and so forth, but drag racing still been a bridesmaid once and been to quite a few semifinals, but just haven't quite got there yet. Hopefully this will be our year. We've lost a couple real close races over the last 2 years, and you know it's heartbreaking. When you see you lost by a couple hundreds, but maybe this year will be our year. Just unfortunately, we haven't had the luck on our side a few times, so we'll see.
Okay. Okay, we're ready for the fun question portion?
Sure.
Now, Dusty, if someone gave you $150 million and said, Dusty, build me a drag race track, where would you build this track and what kind of features would you put into it?
You know what? Because it's close to me and I hate driving to Bakersfield and everywhere else, I'd probably build Fremont drag strip again. The land's still there. It's I'd probably build a facility like Vegas. That's a pretty nice track if you haven't been there. And I'd redo Fremont drag strip, bring it back.
Would you put any special features?
I don't think I'd do the 4-wide or anything just because it takes up a lot of extra space, but I like the return road.
Fans?
Oh, yeah. No, it's all about the creature comforts. You got to do that. You got to have some skyboxes too for the corporate people, but covered stands. Although there's not too many tracks I've seen that have them, it's definitely good for them.
Yeah, it could get pretty burnt up all day in the sun.
Oh, yeah, especially like Sacramento or Bakersfield.
Now, Dusty, do you have any hobbies outside of drag racing?
I'm a pretty rabid Los Angeles Rams fan. I actually either fly or drive 6 hours to all the games, but cool story, I was actually on their end of the year commercial thinking all their fans, so that was kind of cool. And then hanging out with my kids. I work usually 6 days a week too, so that keeps me pretty busy. Got a boat I don't use, but racing, working, kids, normal stuff.
How old are your 2 kids?
My son just turned 12, and then my daughter's 9. They keep me pretty busy. My son's got a junior dragster, but he's not really that super into it. So we take it up and run it a few times a year. But my daughter, she doesn't want to do it.
So now, Dusty, if you were able to do time travel back in time and do something differently, would you do anything differently?
Yeah, I would I'd probably go back to the 60s and the heydays of this drag racing stuff and be one of those guys that drove these things back then. They're a little sketchier and safety wasn't as good, but man, it looked like a good time, and you could do it for a living instead of having to pay through your teeth to do it. So I'd probably grow up in the 50s, 60s era and drag race.
Okay, now if you ever got time to go on vacation, you got a favorite vacation spot for you and your wife and kids?
Yeah, actually, my wife's got a condo in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, so we enjoy Roatan probably a little bit more, but we got the place in Mexico, so that's cool. Quick getaway on the weekends.
Now, what's Dusty Green's favorite food to eat?
Ooh, that's a tough one, man. I've seen a ton lately. I go with Deadpool for more recent stuff. This guy's got my attitude. He's pretty funny, too.
So what kind of movies, like action movies?
Yeah, you know what? I never watched movies till recently, and my wife got me stuck on them. Kind of dig like the Wolverine, superhero Marvel stuff. That's probably my favorite. I grew up liking comic books a lot, so to see the big screen adaptations of those is pretty cool.
Favorite music?
I'm a metal guy. I actually went and seen Marilyn Manson 2 nights ago. Probably not one of his better performances, but it's always cool to go out to his show. I like death metal, hard metal, pop metal. My kid's getting into Slipknot, so I've been listening to them a lot lately, and Five Finger Death Punch, but Avenged Sevenfold. But one of my favorite bands, I like Rammstein a lot. Best live show you'll ever see in your life. Dig Nile, Cannibal Corpse, those types of bands. Slayer, Lamb of God.
Yeah. Well, you're from California, so you got a lot of thrash metal out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny. We're kind of in the hot spot for music, The singer of Machine Head lives in the same town as me. Actually, my buddy, I think their kids were on the same baseball team a couple years ago, and it's not uncommon to run into guys from Testament or whatever. I've been at a bar on a Wednesday night, and Exodus has been hanging out there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool. You see these guys around from time to time.
Yeah, Death Angel.
Yeah. You go to local little shows, and all of a sudden, Brad Gillis will jump on stage with whoever's there and bust out Crazy Train, and he's the guy that, replaced Randy Rhoads, It's kind of cool. I mean, we take it for granted, but there's a lot of music that takes place here in San Francisco area. A lot of thrash metal, too.
Yeah,
I think that.
That's right. Back in the 80s, we had the big Bay Area thrash scene over there.
Metallica. I think Jason Newsted lives one town over from me right now, and my buddy was friends with James Hetfield. They're around, but they're pretty rich. They live in the expensive part of the area.
Yeah. So do you go to concerts a lot?
I don't get to go as much as I used to. It takes me away from going to as many as I'd like. But back in the day when I had more time, 10 years ago, I was going to at least 1 or 2 a week. It seemed. It's for the Bay Area. It's like Cannibal Corpse now. Deicide, Morbid Angel, those types of bands. They all seem to come on a Monday night. And for me, getting up at 5 in the morning to go to work, it's just not in the cards anymore. But if there's a cool band here and it's something I can make, I definitely make an attempt. I saw probably 3 or 4 concerts last year, but some years I'll go to 9, 10, whatever. Sneak out.
So now, Dusty, what's your favorite food?
Mexican. Yeah, I like fajitas, tacos, burritos, anything Mexican. I'm all over it.
Now, does your wife cook?
She does, but and she's actually Mexican, but she doesn't like Mexican food. So we eat a lot of noodles and stuff like that. Or actually, we've been on a diet kick, so a lot of chicken, grilled chicken, that sort of thing. But every now and then when her mom's in town, she'll bring out the home style Mexican food. That makes me happy.
No, favorite beverage, non-alcoholic or alcoholic, either one or both.
It's kind of a chick drink, and my buddies give me a hard time. But my favorite's been 7-Up and Apple Crown. It's kind of an offshoot of the old Crown and Coke, but that 7-Up and Apple Crown's pretty freaking good if you haven't tried it.
Now, if you weren't drag racing, what do you think you'd be doing with your life, Dusty?
Sprint car racing. Nah, I kind of struggle with that. I tried quitting racing one time, and you know what I did? I bought a bunch of guitars. Like, I got, like, Zach Wild, like, Kerry King V, BC Rich Beast, all these guitars. And didn't really learn how to play a note. I could make some cool noises and play little parts of songs, but after a few months of that, I went and bought another race car. So, yeah, if I wasn't drag racing, I'd probably build a 410 wing sprint car and do the California series out here. They're a lot of fun. Drag racing's a good time. The sprint car in its own way is a lot of fun, too, just because of the seat time and the speed.
Yeah, my dad used to take me to watch sprint cars and Outlaws. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it's a kick in the pants. I got the opportunity to run with the Outlaws a few times. They laughed at me multiple times. Those guys that's what they do day in and day out, and I was just some chump trying to be out there. But it was really cool to look over and see guys you really looked up to as a kid next to you. It's a lot of fun. I'll do that again one day. I'm gonna ride this drag race thing as long as I can because it's a lot of fun too. But yeah, I'll probably end up in one of those at some point in time.
Now, when people want to find your schedule online, what's the best way to find your schedule?
Right now it's just the Hot Rod Heritage Series website through NHRA. They got the schedule posted. You got the March meet at the beginning of March. For me personally, we'll go run a match race in Denver in May, Bowling Green in June. From there we go, I think we go August to Boise for the Night Fire Nationals, September, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and then wrap it up with the California Hot Rod Reunion in October. 5-6 races. We got one match race booked. If things go right, we might get a couple more. That would be kind of nice because it helps offset the cost for running the car, but we'll see.
Now, do you think it's important for the kids to come out to the drag races?
What's that now?
Do you think it's important for kids to come out to see drag races?
Oh, yeah. It is really important. Because you know what? If it wasn't for the kids and bringing them to the races, you're not going to get that next generation of fans. And, that's where the promoters, I think, need to do a little bit more work is making sure that the parents the dads are bringing their sons and daughters out there. They're the future of this stuff, and if they don't take an interest in it, it's done. So, especially in the nostalgia thing, in the Nitro classes in general, just because they're a lot of work, a lot of money, and you really got to want to run one. So I think it's important. That match race we run in Denver, they do a real cool deal. It's called Reader Racing, and the promoter, he actually, Sporty goes out, donates tickets to local schools, and what it does is these kids read enough at school and class, they get tickets to come to this big match race, and they got jet cars, fuel cars, funny cars, all this cool stuff altered, and and that's his way of getting that next generation of fans into the stands. And I think everybody listening can admit there's nothing cooler than a Nitro car at night with the flames dancing and all that stuff and the noise. So yeah, it's good. I encourage it, and I will take a little extra time when I see one come up and show some interest in it.
Now, do you sit kids in the seat of the car in the pits?
If they ask, yeah, I'm not against it. Yeah, I've done it before and do it again.
Yeah, that's like I always say this with everybody. The good thing about drag racing is you always have access to the pits to meet all the drivers. Not like NASCAR where you got to pay crazy amounts of money just to try to meet.
Yeah, and that's what makes drag racing so cool. And I'll say it, to be honest, in like the Nostalgia Top Fuel Ring, you can't even fake a rivalry. All the people out there are super cool. They're super nice. They're all pretty family-oriented, and they'll definitely take the time for the kids and even for the adults, just to make conversation. And everybody out there is really approachable. It's pretty cool.
So it's good to see a lot of junior dragsters out there these days, too.
Yeah, it kind of tapered off, but it's starting to build back up. My buddy's pretty deep into that deal. He just ran Phoenix last weekend and went to the final round and stuff with his kid. And hopefully I'll get my kid out there a couple times this year. And yeah, it's good because it exposes the kids to the sport. Not everybody likes baseball or football or basketball. It's a lot cooler than soccer and stuff. So yeah, I encourage it. I definitely, any way I can promote the juniors. It's a cool sport.
Yeah, it's a shame we just lost the drag race track out there in Jersey, the Raceway Park.
Yeah, I saw that. That was kind of a shock. And I'm surprised they did that. And you hate to see tracks closing. It's definitely something the sport doesn't need. And with the increased popularity of drag race in general, especially with the no prep and all that stuff that's going on, it's kind of shocking they weren't able to make it work. But maybe it was mismanagement. I don't know. Maybe they'll come back in a year or two. I haven't really heard the full story on it, but yeah, that was a surprise.
Now, Dusty, thanks for your time. Do you have any final words for all the fans listening out there?
Come out and support your local races. That's the main thing. Come out and support the tracks, because without the tracks, there won't be any more races. And if you're ever out there and you see me, come up and chat.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for your time for an interview again, Dusty.
All right, thank you. You guys have a great one.
You too. Bye.